What if I told you the Caribbean isn't just a string of tropical islands, but one of the most misunderstood regions on Earth? We picture beaches, sunshine, and rum, yet few realize this paradise was once the world's battlefield, shaped by volcanoes, empires, and survival. In this video, we'll explain how geography turned the Caribbean into the crossroads of global history. Technically speaking, the Caribbean is a geographical patchwork. Thousands of islands, islets, and reefs scattered like confetti across the sea. 13 are fully independent nations, while the rest, overseas regions, territories, and dependencies still tied to countries like the UK, France, and Colombia. Picture the Caribbean islands, forming a graceful hook that curves around the turquoise waters of the Caribbean Sea. It's like nature's own hammock between North and South America. If the Caribbean were a storybook, Haiti would be the chapter that rose with revolution. In 1804, this island did the unthinkable. Enslaved people rose up, defeated one of Europe's most powerful empires, and founded the first black republic in the world. That single act sent shockwaves across the globe and changed history forever. Life here has never been easy. Earthquakes, storms, and foreign influence have tested Haiti time and time again. And yet, its people continue to rise, proud, creative, unbreakable. The Dominican Republic, where energy seems to hum in the air itself. It shares the island of Hispaniola with Haiti, and together they are home to more than 20 million people, about twice the population of Cuba. Two nations, one island, and the endless stories in between. If there's one thing they own, it's baseball. The Dominican Republic is a powerhouse. You could probably build an all-star team from just one neighborhood. Antigua and Barbuda, one of the Caribbean's 4 twin island nations. It's got that easy-going blend of quiet luxury and tropical charm, the kind of place where time politely forgets to move. Antigua is home to the famous frigate bird sanctuary, and as locals love to boast, 365 beaches, one for every day of the year. That's commitment. And here's a fun bit of trivia. The nation also legally owns Redonda, an uninhabited rocky speck in the sea, populated entirely by birds and a single species of gecko, possibly living its best life in isolation. Geographically, Barbados is the rebel of the Caribbean. It's not even on the same tectonic trench as most of its neighbors. It sits about 100 miles to the east, out of the hurricane zone, far from the chaos. Historically, it had a brief Portuguese cameo before the British made it their prized sugar colony, and for centuries, enslaved Africans were forced to labor in its cane fields. That painful history would later forge one of the most distinct cultures in the region. Bajan identity. Proud, creative, and defiantly independent. Today, Barbados is one of the wealthiest nations in the Caribbean, famous for its Crop Over Festival, a vibrant celebration that turns the entire island into one massive street party. Locals feast on flying fish and cocoa, washed down with a bit of Mount Gay rum, one of the oldest rum distilleries in the world. The Bahamas. The name comes from the Spanish Baja Mar, meaning shallow sea. Fitting because much of the country's 700 islands sit just above dazzling turquoise shallows. Historically, it's where Christopher Columbus first made landfall in 1492, forever changing the course of world history. Though probably not in a way the locals at the time would have preferred, centuries later, the islands became a refuge for pirates, loyalists, and runaway slaves, all adding their thread to the Bahamian tapestry. Its cruise ship central. Underwater caves, pink sand beaches, old British forts, and ancient Taino sites all compete for attention. Dominica, the quiet soul of the Caribbean, the one who prefers hiking boots to high heels. She's often called Nature Island, and she wears that title proudly. This isn't the kind of place where you'll find mega resorts or cruise crowds. The government actually limits mass tourism to keep the island pristine. The result? Rolling green mountains, misty rainforests, and rivers so clear they look like glass. Cuba, the grand dame of the Caribbean, the largest island in the region, and one of the most culturally magnetic. It's home to over 11 million people and a history that could fill several volumes, or at least a few passionate debates over coffee. Spanish is the rhythm of everyday life here. And yes, we all know that revolution and the decades of overcomplicated politics that followed. But let's not get stuck here. Cuba is far more than cigars and Cold War headlines. The island itself breathes at art and rhythm. The streets of Havana sway to the sounds of mambo, bolero, and rumba. Music that feels like the island's heartbeat, made audible. It's a place where even an old guitar and a dusty courtyard can turn into a concert before sunset. Now we head to the south of Grenada, affectionately known as the Spice Island. Step off the plane and the air itself seems to smell like nutmeg and cinnamon. This tiny island punches far above its weight. It's the world's second largest producer of nutmeg, supplying around 20% of the global stock. They are so proud of it, they literally put a nutmeg on the national flag. Grenada's history had its share of turbulence, including that brief moment in the 1980s when the US decided to drop by for a visit called Operation Urgent Fury. It caused an international stir, but in typical Caribbean fashion, Grenadians carried on and rebuilt. Next up, the twin islands of St. Kitts and Nevis, fondly called the mother colony of the West Indies, because this is where European colonization in the Caribbean began. Today, it's the smallest sovereign nation in the Western Hemisphere, just about 55,000 people. But don't let the size fool you. These islands pack a lot of history, charm, and personality. Influenced heavily by its English heritage, St. Kitts feels like a slice of the Caribbean with a touch of old British elegance, complete with colonial architecture and cricket fields that glow in the evening sun. And then there's the drunk monkeys. Yes, you've heard of that, right? Brought centuries ago from Africa, they've since developed a taste of whatever cocktails tourists leave behind. It's not exactly scientific, but it might make St. Kitts the only nation where even wildlife knows how to party. Now to Jamaica, the music island, the rhythm that the world can't stop dancing to. From the smoky studios of Kingston came reggae, ska, and rocksteady genres that reshaped global music. And beyond that, Jamaica gave us icons who became voices of revolution, peace, and power. But Jamaica's influence stretches beyond rhythm, poetry, cuisine, language, sport, you name it. It's home to the fastest people on earth. Because when your national motto is out of many, one people, you learn to move together and move fast. St. Lucia, the Helen of the West Indies. Like Helen of Troy, she's been fought over 14 times. The British and French couldn't make up their minds, treating her like the Caribbean's most desirable prize. It's a fascinating blend. English signs, French surnames, and a rhythm all their own. Even though Britain eventually took charge in the 1800s, the Lucian French still rolls beautifully off local tongues. And yes, St. Lucia is home to the world's only drive-in volcano, Sulphur Springs. And for a tiny island boasting 2 Nobel laureates, not bad. Just south, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, another island caught in the eternal tug-of-war between France and Britain. It's a place where the beaches sound like poetry. Macaroni Beach, Buttercup, Gingerbread. And finally, the dynamic duo, Trinidad and Tobago. the last of the island nations and arguably the most eclectic of them all. Trinidad stands apart as one of the most industrialized economies in the region. Oil, gas, manufacturing, even skyscrapers in the port of Spain. And when Carnival comes, the streets explode in rhythm, color, and steel pan. It's not just a party, it's a heartbeat that unites the island. Next stop, the French Caribbean, Guadeloupe and Martinique. Think of them as France's outposts, fully integrated into the European Republic. Same laws, same legislative power, same Eurozone currency. It's France, just with palm trees and volcanoes. Both islands have active volcanoes. Martinique's Mount Pelée made history in 1902 with a catastrophic eruption, a stark reminder that paradise can be thrillingly dangerous. Guadeloupe, on the other hand, dazzles with its lush landscape, including what may just be the highest waterfall in the Caribbean. Moving on to St. Barthélemy, or St. Barth's, as the jet-set crowd calls it. Once part of Guadeloupe, it became a separate French collectivity in 2003, giving it a touch more independence while still waving the French flag. Finally, St. Martin, the northern half of an island famously shared with Dutch Sint Maarten. Two nations, one landmass, and a quirky political setup that makes it a living map puzzle. St. Martin is basically a resort town, paradise, turquoise lagoons, pristine beaches, and streets lined with colorful shops and restaurants. And now we reach the Dutch Caribbean, starting with the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curaçao. Two of them, Aruba and Curaçao, are constituent countries within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Bonaire, however, decided to get cozy and is a special municipality. It's like a sibling who says, "Nah, I'll just move in with mom permanently." They all speak Dutch, but English is widely known, so no excuse not to order a cocktail. Now we hit the UK slice of paradise. 5 islands, mostly tax havens, with just enough charm to make you want to stay longer than the paperwork allows. Anguilla, pronounced exactly as you think. And yes, named after the Spanish word for eel because, well, it looks like one. Formerly a pirate playground. Today, treasure hunters might still stumble upon something shiny. Richard Branson loves it so much he spends half of the year on Necker Island, the Cayman Islands, allegedly the birthplace of scuba diving, amazing turtles, pristine reefs, and yes, one of the biggest tax havens ever. Montserrat, the island that went full fireworks in 1995. A volcanic eruption destroyed half the island and the old capital, leaving behind ruins that now make for some seriously dramatic Instagram shots. Venezuela's federal dependencies, a scattered chain of about 600 islands and islets, mostly empty except for 2,200 people, important for oil, fishing, and extending Venezuela's economic zone. Basically, the Caribbean's quiet powerhouse. Finally, the islands under the stars and stripes, a territory with over 3 million people, self-governing, bilingual, and with a diaspora in the US that actually outnumbers its home population. Navassa Island, a lighthouse, 0 people, and a wildlife refugee. Basically, the Caribbean's ultimate get off my lawn island. And that's pretty much everything in the Caribbean, from volcanic spikes to pink sand beaches, from pirate lore to Nobel laureates, from ripsaw music to drunk monkeys. The Caribbean isn't just a place. It's a mosaic of cultures, histories, and stories.